Yo, I'm so happy to have another chapter of Chainsaw Man because, man, I think I can speak for everyone. I'm just so happy to have new content for this series because it's such a good manga. Easily one of my favorite manga I've read in like the past decade. I hold it up as one of my favorite manga I think I've ever read, and I'm glad to be here at another new chapter while it's coming out today. And it's crazy. Next week, we're going to be on chapter 100 of Chainsaw Man. That's just, put that in perspective. And it's just like, wow. Chainsaw Man really doesn't even have 100 chapters, but it's already this amazing. Just, it shows you the level of quality that the author puts into the writing and the storytelling, just to have such a huge community around this manga and how many people love it. And once again, we're just on the 99th chapter. It says enough about just the sheer peak quality. Now, there is a lot in this chapter. There is a lot to discuss. There is a lot of world building, a lot of character development, characterization, and a lot of hints at maybe things that could happen to other characters. But there is one thing in particular that I think many are overlooking. Maybe because it's too easy to guess and people might be overthinking it, or maybe it's just there's other things going on in this chapter. Whatever the case may be, there is definitely something that needs to be discussed, and I want to dive into that first. And that is the fact of why our main female character, at least a part 2 of Chainsaw Man, that now has the War Devil inside of her, why she still has a brain, or half her brain, and is still somewhat in control of her body. Now, obviously, at first glance, okay, when you look at this chapter, obviously, and you read it, etc., it's basically stated to you that, yes, the reason why half her brain is still intact and why it's all that, because the War Devil allowed it. It's like, oh, I allowed you to have half your brain, I could take over it all, but I let you have half your brain, and then also the damage to your face and all that is why, it implies that, yes, but I think there's a lot more to it, and there is a simpler answer to why our main female character of part 2 is able to somewhat control her body still. And that is because what the War Devil is. War. Think about it, okay? What does the War Devil like? War. What is another element of war? War inside the mind, battling another personality, battling another segment of your mind for supremacy, battling for who's in control, battling with different ideals, conflicted thoughts. Those type of emotions within your mind can lead to war within yourself. And obviously the War Devil likes war. So maybe the reason why the War Devil has allowed, a human to stay alive within the body, for instance, half control, is because they crave war. They want that struggle. They want that fight. I mean, obviously, they want to be able to constantly have someone that maybe opposes them or up against them, etc. It's very fascinating. And I feel like maybe that is the reason why the female character of part 2 is probably somewhat in control. Now, obviously, there could be other examples or reasons for this, but that is my headcanon for right now, because it falls in line with just the ideology of the War Devil itself and what the War Devil would crave. Because it's not just wars in the physical sense, but also in the mental sense that definitely the War Devil would want. So, I just want to point that out. So, I think that is a huge detail to this chapter that's probably going to play a huge role later on down the line, because I feel like maybe the War Devil might not be able to get rid of the other half. Maybe there is a reason for this. Maybe the reason why the War Devil can't is because literally it needs to always be at war. For instance, right now, technically, the War Devil is at war with the Chainsaw Man, but also at war within her own mind, or in the human's mind. So yeah, food for thought. Okay, so let's get off that. Let's talk about the chapter. Now, the chapter in general obviously gets to show the aftermath of what happened in, chapter 98. Basically, our main female character we're following for right now, she is basically still what she was in the first chapter. She's very passive, and she's trying to, basically be a recluse, stay away from school. She doesn't want to go back to school, etc. But obviously, the War Devil forces her, and you get to kind of see the conflicting thoughts right here. Like, she's like, on second thought, I don't want to go in there. And then you just see how, the War Devil's like, you better go in there or you're really gonna die this time, etc. Kind of, making her go in. Like, hey, you better do this. You gotta do this and all that. And it kind of shows that, once again, this goes with what I was talking about: war within the mind, clashing ideals, etc., conflicting thoughts of what you want to do. And it shows that maybe these two characters might learn from each other. I think that's one of the big things that maybe this entire direction of the story is going, is that the War Devil might learn about maybe more about human society, because obviously that's one of the big reasons, at least what the War Devil hints at. It's like, hey, I need to know more about, human society, devil hunters, etc. So obviously, because of that, you're still around. And so clearly she's going to be learning from our human character. And then the human character is going to be learning from the devil side of things. And I think that's going to lead to very interesting character development in the future for Chainsaw Man Part 2. And I'm excited about that, because there is a lot of potential with just what this chapter has showcased. I think that, honestly, I've always loved these type of plots, especially the psychological nature. It's why I fell in love with Tokyo Ghoul. And I mean, anyone that was around that time when I was talking about Tokyo Ghoul knows how much I love Tokyo Ghoul. It's such a good series, and there's so much symbolism, it's very psychological, you can really dive into a character's psyche, and clearly that's something that Chainsaw Man's technically always had. I mean, when you think about just Denji and his relationship with Makima and everything that happened throughout the first half of Chainsaw Man, yes, there was a lot of psychological to that. There really was. You can honestly write a huge paper on just Denji's overall viewpoint on the world from the beginning to the end of the story, because of how much it changes and what Makima actually does to him. And that's an element that obviously I love about Chainsaw Man, and we're getting kind of another example of this, of more of a psychological atmosphere to it. And I love this. I love what Chainsaw Man's doing right now, and it clearly shows just the level of detail and writing that has been, sitting back for the past year and a half, since, we've been waiting for Chainsaw Man to come back. Obviously the author has just been really thinking about what they can do, and just came back writing liquid magma on a paper. That's what we got going on here. Now, obviously, we've got a new character here that was introduced. He's basically someone that's maybe a potential love interest for our character. Now, if we know anything about love interests and all that when it comes to Chainsaw Man, it doesn't end up really well. I mean, Power, Makima, Rize, I mean, we have seen what happens to female characters, or just characters in general, that get in a relationship in Chainsaw Man. And obviously, this character is probably going to be one of our main cast for the second half, but I feel like, judging by just what we have seen from the story, all I sense is tragedy. All I sense is sadness in the future, because of what's probably going to happen with him even interacting with our main female character right now. That's just my 2 cents on the matter. Now, besides that, we also get the stuff with doing basically a test of, going in to this Devil Hunter Club, trying to join it, etc., and they got to go on patrols and all that. And so probably within the next chapter, the chapter after that, we're probably going to get introduced to Denji once again, and I'm honestly looking forward to that. I'm curious to see how Denji is doing, because obviously he wanted to go to school. He's finally getting to go to school. He's chilling and relaxing, and I do hope that he's actually having a decent life. I mean, we know he ended in a very difficult and rough spot, just the conclusion of his story, at least in the first half, it was very difficult for him, and it was rough. And I wonder if he has found some happiness with his life now, thanks to, being in school, etc. Maybe he's found new friends, who really knows? Or maybe he's staying by himself. He's just pushing everybody away, because maybe he doesn't want to have anyone around him that he might lose. Who really knows? There could be any directions that the story can take right now. I think there's just so much potential that, this chapter has really set up. Now, a few other things to talk about is, these birds. These birds get a little bit of focus, and I think, once again, this is more symbolism to the fact that the War Devil was a bird, and I think many agree with what I said in my chapter review last week, that probably the reason why it was a bird is because it's probably a reference to Athena, basically a tactical war, or, a strategic war, and we get to see these birds once again, which kind of look like crows or ravens, which basically could mean, a murder of crows. Basically, death is probably to happen, which, with war comes death, so we got that. And if death is going to be around, we might get another one of the, the horsemen, basically death itself. We'll have to see. But, just this chapter does a good job, and we get a little bit of romance kind of being thrown in here, which, as I said, is definitely leading into maybe something depressing, because we know how relationships go. Yeah, just overall, this is a good chapter. It's honestly just, like I said, it's amazing to have this back, and the overall concept of a devil sharing the body with a human in such a way where, like, they're frenemies? Like, they're working together, but at the same time, they're kind of enemies or going against each other is such a fascinating take, and I love this direction of the story, because, like I said, there's potential here. But, I guess that's about it. I guess I'll see you guys next week for the next chapter, and, I might make another video maybe discussing things in depth if I missed anything. But yeah, just tell me your thoughts in the comments below, how you, felt about this chapter, Chainsaw Man. Did you enjoy, chapter 99? Did you hate it? How do you feel about my personal headcanon on why I think she's technically still somewhat in control? Just tell me your honest thoughts in the comments below. But with that, guys, be safe, stay healthy, Chibi out.